Hello everyone, Katie from the Museum of Ontario Archaeology for our Wednesday, April 15th episode of MOA Kids Activities. And we're continuing our series on Medway Valley resources. So that's the creek valley that runs around the museum, and more specifically around the village site. So the site was chosen to be near these two rivers where the Snake Creek and Medway Creek converge. So in that region there is tons and tons of resources, and it's why these areas were chosen, and it's why we live in these areas today, because they have lots of resources that are available. So one of the resources, last week we did birds, and birds could be hunted as well as their feathers were collected, but snakes is this week's theme. And I know not everybody loves snakes. I enjoy snakes. I think snakes are pretty cute. So I have 3 different types of snakes. We don't have a lot of snakes in Ontario, and we don't tend to have very many dangerous snakes or poisonous snakes. And here in London, we don't really have any dangerous snakes at all. And in the Medway Valley area, there are 3, and they're pretty harmless. They're not as well. They're also afraid of you. So if you're out walking through the trails at some point and you've come across a snake, particularly in London, it's probably one of these 3, and more likely one than the other 2, and I'll talk about that. But then they're not going to hurt you, and they're going to run, and they're more afraid of you than you are of them. But this is the first one that we're going to talk about. My mom says Katie really likes snakes. I do. I think they're cute. So here is the queen snake, and they're the first ones. That's a close-up, and here's what they look like in full. I don't have a printer, so that's what we're going to get. So queen snakes, they are olive to gray or dark brown, and they have peach or yellow lines that run along their backs and along their bellies. And the belly lines, there's 3 on their back and 4 on their bellies, and those belly lines differentiate them from other snakes because they can often look very similar to the garter snake, which we're going to talk about next. And they are, what do? They eat mostly molted crayfish, so they have a much more limited diet than a lot of the other snakes. And that diet can be affected by poor water quality, which affects the amount of crayfish that are around for them to eat. And habitat loss is the other thing that affects the status of these snakes, because they are an endangered species. There's not very many of them, but they are still a few in and around the Medway Valley area. It's hard to say if I've seen one or not, because they can look very much like the garter snake. So now I know how to tell the difference. If they have belly lines, it's a queen, and it's a more rare thing to see. And hopefully they'll stick around. If we keep our waters clean, we don't tear down their habitats, which are streams and rivers, and they can climb trees, so they might be up in the trees too. The next one we're going to talk about is the eastern garter snake, and these are plentiful. They are not endangered. There we go. They're not endangered, and there's lots of them. Look at this cute little guy here. He's very happy to see us. Their coloring varies a lot. They can be dark green, brown, or black, and they have 3 yellow stripes, which is what makes them hard to differentiate from the queen. They eat fish and amphibians and earthworms. They're harmless. They're plentiful. What else we got? They live in forests, wetlands, fields, rocky areas, and urban landscapes. So they're also very adaptable to human environments, which is probably also why there's so many of them. I found two reasonings behind their kind of funny name. The garter snake, one is that they may have been named after the garters that men used to wear to hold up their socks. Reasoning that the lines on them look like garters. Or it may be a corruption of a German word for garden. So, because you find them in the garden. The origin of words, the origins of names can often be hard to track back. Who came up with the names and when they changed and how they got to be the way they are. I did forget lengths. The queen snake is fairly small. They grow up to about 60 centimeters, which is not very big. It's about 3 rulers. How long is a ruler? 2 rulers. 30 centimeter rulers. That's 2, which I suppose some people might think is large. But the eastern garter snake can grow up to 1 meter long. So they're quite a bit bigger. And 1 meter is quite big. I've definitely seen big garter snakes at the museum. They're often sunning on the palisade, especially, or not the palisade, the maze just inside the palisade. The long horizontal wooden sticks that make up the maze are a great spot for the garter snakes, or any of these snakes, to sort of stretch themselves out all along it and sun. So we've definitely seen them there. And occasionally inside the museum too. They sneak in. I talked about that already. We're gonna move on to our next snake. This one is looks a little bit different. My picture's back up here. This is the eastern milk snake. You can see that there. So he looks quite a bit different from the other two. Oops. Wrong way, that way. So our little garter snake, our queen, there she is. So, there's our milk snake. And the milk snake is gray or tan, and they seem to be a bit mixed. And I'm not sure what the exact words are for the spots that they seem to have, or if that's universal to all of them, but the two pictures I've seen or the couple of pictures that I've seen of them have that. They're not endangered, but they were at risk up until 2016, and they have been removed from that list. So that means their numbers are doing better. But they're not dangerous, but they are often mistaken for the Massasauga rattlers, which are a bit dangerous. They live in overlapping regions, and they're coloring, and they also vibrate their tails when they're disturbed. So they're not rattlesnakes, but they do vibrate, and so people mistake them as the much more dangerous and to be cautious of Massasauga rattlers. But with all snakes, leave them alone and they won't bother you. They live in fields, forest edges, and rocky outcrops. So that sort of fits our Medway Valley area as well. And they eat rodents like voles and mice. They also eat bird eggs, and if they live in areas with lizards, they'll eat them too, but we don't have any, so they won't be eating any lizards in Medway Valley because there are none of those. But there are lots of amphibians, and next week we're going to talk about the amphibians that are found, so frogs and other things like that. But we're not just talking about our snakes today. We're going to make some snakes. So I have a snake craft, and I like this one because it's a very simple craft, and it's fun. And I find when we do this at the museum, little fingers find this fun and enjoyable to do. So we have some pipe cleaners, and I have these kind of weird skinny pipe cleaners. That's what came when we ordered them. So I'm going to use 2 of these. A regular sized sort of standard pipe cleaner. I'm going to use 2 different colors. Why not? one will be sufficient. But we want enough pipe cleaner that our beads that we're going to stick on these hold on well. So we have pipe cleaner, and then I have all sorts of beads. And you can choose, I gotta pull them back a little bit. You can choose all one color, you can choose multicolored, you can do a rainbow snake. You can try to emulate one or match the colorings on the queen snake or the eastern garter snake or the eastern milk snake. You can do whatever you like. You can use your favorite colors. I'm going to do maybe like a yellow and green. I got lots of yellows and greens here. So all we do is we put on one. It's a little harder because there's two. There we go. Get on there. One bead on, and we're going to fold those ends down. So that's going to hold all of our beads on. I do find that actually beads don't slide off too easily on the regular sized pipe cleaners. And then we just start piling the beads on. You can make the snake as long or as short as your pipe cleaner will allow. I suppose if you want to make them really long, you could add pipe cleaners together. That would work too. And we basically just do this until our snake is long. And then I'm going to make mine fairly short today. It will be a little tiny snake. But ideally, you'd probably want to do the whole pipe cleaner. When you get to the point that you want to head, then we can put a few more on. Leave enough space to make the head, I guess. It's a bit short because we're going to fold it back, and we're actually going to put this pipe cleaner back through the others. Now, am I going to be able to do that with my two? I think I can. Oops. Maybe I can't. That's going to be harder for me today. Okay. I guarantee it works really well with regular pipe cleaner. So I'm going to do this differently. I'm just going to wrap it around. Always ways to make things work. Okay. And cut that off. So there's my little snake head and the little snake body. What's nice about them is you can bend them around and you can make them curve like a snake. And we're going to add some little eyes on our snake. So I've got some little googly eyes. And I've got, this does work best with a glue gun. At that funny point where the glue falls out. There we go. And for really little fingers, adults should help with this for sure, because they tend to burn their fingers. And even on these low heat glue guns, they can hurt a bit, even if they won't burn you very much. There we are. So there's our eyes. And you can use a little piece of paper, or you can use a little bit of red pipe cleaner if you have it. Because snakes have little tongues that stick out, and they use that to help navigate around, find their food. There we go. So there's our little snake. And you can make a whole bunch of them and have a snake family, whatever you want to do. So thank you very much for joining me today and learning about snakes. Friday, we will have our Mad Libs Friday. Join us for that. And 10 a.m. as normal. And on Monday, not sure yet, but Wednesday next week we'll be doing our amphibians. So I will see you on Friday. Bye-bye.